This is the very moment investigators uncover more than 900,000 images of David Fuller doing some downright despicable things with the deceased. And that's only scratching the surface when it comes to the now viral body cam footage and the disturbing backstory behind it. Strap in and get ready, because this one goes deep. So we gotta actually take things all the way back to June of 1987, when a woman named Wendy Knell was discovered deceased in her bedsit, having been savagely attacked the night before. In addition to this, the culprit had taken it upon himself to, let's just say, continue to assault Wendy after she had already passed. And although investigators followed up on several leads, including Wendy's boyfriend, there just simply wasn't enough evidence to even remotely link a single individual to this crime, especially due to the fact that this was before the time of CCTV and DNA. Well, shortly thereafter, a 20-year-old Caroline Pierce would be abducted from directly in front of her unit. And for 3 long weeks, there's not a single peep, no sightings, no tips called in, no nothing. That is until police receive a phone call about a woman deceased lying in a ditch about 40 miles away. Well, lo and behold, they find several similarities between the two murders, things like means and methods and other details we simply cannot mention here. These 2 instances would later become known as the bedsit murders, and although they found a boot print as well as a fingerprint of the perpetrator, nothing matched up in systems they had at the time. With nowhere else to look, the case would essentially run cold all the way up into 1999. DNA testing had become much more pertinent, but once again, after running it through the database, not a single match was found, and as time went on, the more it just seemed like this killer was absolutely gonna get away with it. But then it happened. Coming into 2019, even more advances in collecting DNA became available, allowing them to collect an additional sample from Caroline's tights worn on that fateful night. And this is where things begin to drastically pick up in this case, as well as several other cold cases that had essentially been given up on. They finally receive a partial match from the brother of David Fuller. They then began digging through the man's family tree, coming up with one individual in particular. You see, David had been convicted of a string of burglaries back in the 1970s, proving he was at least somewhat comfortable with trespassing into people's homes. Or so they had determined he had been living in the same county the murders had taken place at that time. Well, finally, on December 3rd of 2020, more than 30 years after these crimes had taken place, can police show up to his home and...
We're from Kent Police and we're investigating the murders of Wendy Knell and Caroline Pierce in 1987. As part of that investigation, you've been linked as a suspect, both geographically and forensically. Okay, if you listen to what my colleague's going to say.
Right, David, you're under arrest on suspicion of the murders of Wendy Knell and Caroline Pierce in 1987.
Just a short while later, when combing through David's belongings, they find over 34,000 physically printed photographs, including this one right here. And I shit you not, they zoom in on the sole of his shoe, finding a perfect match with the shoe print left on Wendy's shirt. And if you think that's bad, things are about to get taken to a whole new level. In a cupboard in Fuller's house, they find 4 hard drives. And upon viewing those hard drives, they were absolutely shocked at what they were seeing. I mean, some investigators even went on to say they have quite literally never seen anything that compares to what this guy had been doing. While working as a maintenance manager in 2 different hospitals, he had been sneaking into the morgue and filming himself abusing the recently deceased. As a matter of fact, further investigation would identify more than 100 victims. And on December 15th of 2021, Fuller was finally sentenced for not only the murders of Wendy and Caroline, but also these horrible things he had been doing in both of those hospitals. Now, before I leave you with this last clip from his trial, it's also important to note, recent findings over further investigations into the hospitals he had been working at determined that there had been multiple failures on various levels. These findings suggest that it was through those failures Fuller was able to get away with it for 15 long years.
The court has heard of the impact on these families. When members of Kent Police's family engagement team visited to break the news, it was incomprehensible to them. How could their loved ones be so violated in a place which was meant to care for them and keep them in peace?